Let's start at the very beginning of this story. Back then, I was a 38-year-old guy, married to Elena for 12 years. She was 36, and we had 4 kids together, 3 boys and 1 girl. Now, let me take you into my thoughts at that time, which I remember very clearly. It was a beautiful day in our small town, and I was tired from work but also feeling incredibly lucky. During that period of my life, my business was finally doing well. I had a lovely wife, Elena, and 4 amazing children. I had come a long way from my tough childhood, but I won't go into that now. Looking back, I was really proud of being a dedicated dad and husband. When I got home, I heard my kids laughing. My 4-year-old Lucy rushed up to me with a drawing in her little hands. "Look, Daddy," she proudly showed me her artwork. "It's Uncle Dave and Mommy in a car." I chuckled at first, thinking it was just another one of her innocent drawings. Uncle Dave was my dad's youngest brother, 42 years old, and we taught our kids to call him Uncle. But a strange feeling started to bother me. Why would she draw them together like that? They had never been in a car together. At first, I tried to ignore it, thinking it was best not to dwell on it. Lucy, my imaginative 4-year-old, was always known for her wild creativity. I remember the time she made up a story about a magical dragon living in our backyard, eating all her veggies so she wouldn't have to. Considering her imaginative nature, it didn't seem too unusual for her to create a strange drawing. However, as the days went by, I couldn't shake that nagging feeling in my gut. I started to notice changes in Elena's behavior, like her becoming more distant and easily irritated. She seemed distracted, and her affectionate hugs, which used to be warm, now felt distant and cold. I couldn't help but feel insecure, wondering if something was going on without my knowledge. Around a month later, we hosted a family gathering at our place, a typical barbecue where both Elena and Dave were present. It was on that day that my suspicions grew stronger. Our families socialized, talking to people other than their spouses, while the kids played and I chatted with my sister and a cousin. During that time, I glanced to my left and noticed that Uncle Dave and Elena were drawn to each other. I focused on them, and something about the way they were interacting caught my attention. They stood at the edge of the garden, deeply engrossed in conversation. Their closeness and body language were unusual for a regular family chat. As I got closer to them, I saw Dave placing his hand on Elena's shoulder, giving it a gentle squeeze, while Elena blushed and smiled, looking down. That particular moment struck me as odd, leaving me with an uneasy feeling. It seemed like they had a connection that went beyond the usual family dynamics, and I, as her husband, felt like an outsider. Their relationship seemed to be more than just family-related, and it left me questioning the true nature of their connection. Sometimes, your instincts send a signal that something is not right. When I stood in front of them, they abruptly stopped their conversation and stared directly into my eyes. Dave had a proud expression on his face. It was almost as if they shared a secret bond that excluded me. Unsure of how to proceed, I thought about my options. I decided that I needed more evidence before taking any action, so I chose to keep gathering information and closely monitoring the situation. While still at the family reunion, I thought it would be a good idea to find out more about what Dave had been up to lately. I had conversations with different family members, and they all mentioned that Dave was still unemployed. One cousin even jokingly said that Dave seemed to be spending all his time chasing ladies. None of them mentioned anything about his relationship with Elena, but Dave's strange behavior and lifestyle only made me more suspicious. In the days after the reunion, I started looking for more clues and inconsistencies in their stories. I began closely watching their phone calls, texts, and where they went. I knew that if something was really wrong, the truth would come out eventually. A few days after the gathering, I had a feeling that Dave might have visited my house while I was at work. This suspicion came from something Elena said about Dave coming over to get his watch that he had left behind during the barbecue. I asked Elena about the watch, finding it a bit odd. She explained, "Yes, his watch. He forgot it when he moved it away from the barbecue smoke, I suppose." It seemed somewhat strange but also possible, as I had seen others do similar things. Still, I decided to ask my neighbor Tom for a favor. I told him I suspected someone might have messed with our yard, and I wondered if he could check his security camera footage for any suspicious activity during a specific time. Tom, always willing to help, agreed. As we watched the footage together, I saw something that made my heart sink. On that specific day, Dave was seen entering our house while I was at work. I have to admit, I work long hours, almost like a workaholic. But it was around 10 in the morning. Elena's description turned out to be accurate. However, as we fast-forwarded the footage, Dave didn't show up again. I asked Tom to take control of the screen for a moment, and when we advanced it by about 3 hours, I saw Dave leaving. He had spent over 3 hours inside, and it was a weekday when Elena was supposed to be home alone. This new information made my suspicions even stronger, but I realized I needed concrete evidence before confronting anyone. This was a matter involving my family and my life, and it seemed almost unbelievable. I started to have negative thoughts, but Tom brought me back to reality. Tom expressed his regret and promised to keep me informed if he found anything else. I kept my worries vague, trying to stay composed to avoid more questions, and thanked him for his help. Feeling overwhelmed and unsure about what to do next, I decided to hire a private investigator to look into Dave's activities. I needed someone who could discreetly and professionally gather evidence. After doing some research, I found an investigator and explained my situation. The private investigator, an experienced professional, warned me that he might only be able to follow Dave, with no guarantee of solid findings. However, he assured me of his dedication to uncovering the truth. In the following weeks, the private investigator provided me with updates on what he discovered. He told me that Dave frequently traveled around town, which was puzzling given his apparent lack of a job and his seemingly busy schedule. The investigator also found out that Dave was using 2 different vehicles and often parked near a creek close to my house. Additionally, he tracked Dave to a motel near the nearby big city. I was surprised when the investigator shared information about the motel. According to him, on one occasion, he saw Dave going into a room at the motel. Just 30 minutes later, Elena arrived and went into the same room. The shock and pain I felt were indescribable. Despite my suspicions, I had held on to a glimmer of hope that I might be wrong. But now, the truth was undeniable. As I realized the seriousness of the situation, my feelings of betrayal and anger grew stronger. I couldn't understand how Elena, the woman I had married and the mother of my children, could betray me like this. The life we had built together felt like a facade, and knowing about her daily deception filled me with rage. Then there was Dave, a family member who had witnessed my growth, now responsible for tearing my family apart. He knew our history and I had trusted him, but he had betrayed me. My emotions were overwhelmed by hatred and fury towards both of them. I organized a family dinner at my sister's house to reveal their betrayal. I made sure the children wouldn't be there, as I wanted to protect them from the upcoming unpleasantness. I specifically asked my sister to help host the dinner, while keeping my true intentions a secret. She hesitated, but eventually agreed, trusting my judgment. However, not everyone could attend due to the unusual request for a dinner without children. My sister, who was aware of the plan but unaware of the specifics, informed everyone that she had a special message to share, which was the reason for her request. This piqued the curiosity of most family members. As the day of the dinner approached, I felt a looming sense of darkness. I knew that I was on the verge of upending our lives, but I couldn't allow Elena and Dave to escape the consequences of their actions. The profound sense of betrayal fueled my determination to hold them accountable. When the family gathered at my sister's house, a palpable tension hung in the air. Everyone was intrigued by the special message my sister was said to have prepared. Unbeknownst to them, it was I who had a startling revelation in store. I did my best to maintain a facade of composure, but internally, my emotions were in turmoil. The dinner commenced with the customary lighthearted conversations and laughter, but I couldn't fully engage. My thoughts were fixed on the impending moment when I would expose Elena and Dave. As the evening unfolded, I decided it was time to unveil the truth. I rose from my seat, my heart pounding in my chest, and cleared my throat to capture everyone's attention. The room fell into silence, with all eyes fixed on me. Gasps echoed throughout the room, and astonished expressions turned toward Elena and Dave. They both appeared stunned, resembling deer caught in headlights, their faces drained of color and eyes widened with fear. My sister, who had trusted my intentions without knowing the details, mirrored the shock of everyone else, but remained silent. As you can imagine, this has been a devastating revelation for me and our family. I simply couldn't bear the weight of this secret any longer. And I believe that all of you deserve to know the truth, I said, my voice quivering with emotion but maintaining a semblance of steadiness. I've been collaborating with an attorney, and I intend to initiate divorce proceedings. I wanted to do this in front of all of you as witnesses, so there would be no more falsehoods or concealed truths. At that moment, Dave abruptly rose and attempted to approach me, but my father swiftly intervened, his face flushed with anger. "You sit down and wait for your turn to speak," he snapped at Dave, who hesitated before returning to his seat. The room remained stunned, but I opted to emphasize my point. I presented photographs of Elena and Dave entering the same motel room on different occasions, clearly showing date stamps. The evidence was incontrovertible. Some family members began to express their support and offer condolences. My mother began to weep, while others were left speechless, simply gazing at Elena and Dave with a mixture of disappointment and anger. As the shock settled in, the reactions of Elena and Dave couldn't have been more different. While Dave quickly turned red with anger, hurling insults and even making threats, Elena simply froze and stared at the glass of water before her. I remained composed, maintaining eye contact with Dave, refusing to back down. Then, unexpectedly, Elena finally spoke. I'm so sorry," she murmured, her voice barely audible over the commotion of the family members. My father's expression shifted from anger to disappointment as he turned to Dave. "How long has this been happening?" he demanded. Dave responded, 3 years. His eyes filled with a disturbing sense of triumph, the same look he had when he touched my wife during the family barbecue. The room erupted with emotions as my family members began to shout and usher Dave toward the exit. I could sense the anger surging through my veins as I watched him depart, fully aware of the profound betrayal he had inflicted upon me and my family. With the commotion subsiding and Dave being escorted out of the house, the attention in the room shifted towards Elena and me. My dad and a few family members began gently guiding people from the dining room into the living room, leaving just Elena, my sister, my dad, and a couple of other relatives with me. As the door closed behind us, a heavy silence filled the room. My inner turmoil of anger and betrayal was a challenge to control, especially with Dave's revelation echoing in my mind. 3 years. I hadn't anticipated it lasting that long. My anger escalated, evident in my tone as I questioned Elena. "What do you want, Elena? You didn't just do this to me, you did it to our kids too." Elena admitted, "It's true, I'm so sorry." I inquired if that was all, my voice appearing calmer, although my growing anger was apparent. My dad and sister intervened to help calm me down, while 2 of my female cousins stayed with Elena. She continued to beg for forgiveness, repeatedly expressing her remorse and claiming it had only been 2 months. However, none of us were in the mood for such explanations. Cheating is cheating. I informed her that we were going home, and she could stay at the motel while I took care of the kids. Gradually, I regained my composure and focused on the necessary tasks at hand. I apologized to my sister for not informing her earlier, but everyone in the room understood why I had taken the actions I did. They assured me of their support for both me and the kids, pledging to assist us through this challenging period. One of my cousins volunteered to drive Elena to the motel, while another went to collect her necessary belongings from our house. It marked a somber conclusion to what had commenced as a family dinner, but I understood that it was merely the initial stage of a lengthy and painful journey ahead. Elena departed from the family dinner that evening accompanied by one of my cousins, while another cousin joined me to retrieve her essentials from our residence. During the packing process, I retrieved the suitcase I had prepared in advance, which contained the divorce papers. Although I wasn't certain it contained everything she needed, it included all the essentials and the divorce documents. When my cousin delivered the suitcase to the motel, she discovered Elena lying on the bed, crying and trembling. As she unpacked Elena's belongings, the divorce papers drew her attention, and she set them on the nightstand. Elena noticed them and immediately panicked, shouting and pleading for forgiveness, begging my cousin to take her back home. She exclaimed, "It wasn't 3 years. It was only 2 months. I did it, but it meant nothing." After some time, she grew calmer, and one of my cousins gently took the papers from her, kindly explaining that it was a necessary step. Elena fell completely silent as they left her alone in the room. It was a challenging moment for all of us, and I couldn't help but experience a sense of sadness and remorse as I reflected on the unfolding events. Nevertheless, I recognized the importance of maintaining strength for my children and making choices that would ultimately benefit all of us. Following 2 nights spent at the motel, Elena returned home. I awaited her arrival with my sister, and when she appeared, our children rushed up to her, seeking hugs and kisses. Seeing our children so overjoyed to be reunited with their mother truly pained me, especially considering her actions. Once we were alone as adults, my sister kept the kids occupied, and Elena and I engaged in a lengthy conversation about our predicament. Elena appeared worn out, appearing almost a decade older than the last time I had seen her. We came to an agreement that she could remain at home with the children for a short period, but we would occupy separate rooms, and I would proceed with the divorce proceedings. As the days passed, Elena grew increasingly desperate in her efforts to win me back. She prepared my favorite dishes, purchased small gifts, and repeatedly expressed her remorse. Initially, I appreciated her gestures, but it soon became apparent that her actions were motivated more by self-interest than a sincere desire to make amends and accept the divorce. On one occasion, she arrived at my workplace with a bouquet of flowers, attempting to apologize in front of my coworkers. I felt embarrassed and angered by her intrusion into my professional life. I thanked her for the gesture but made it unequivocal that it wouldn't alter the situation. She even attempted to initiate physical intimacy on another occasion, but I promptly rejected her advances. The thought of being intimate with her again, given what had transpired with Dave, was inconceivable to me. Her feelings were hurt by my rejection, but I couldn't summon any sympathy. One morning, while passing through the laundry room, she cornered me, imploring me for forgiveness. "You can't fathom how much I need you. I can't bear to be without you." With tears rolling down her cheeks, she clung to me and sobbed, pleading, "I'll do whatever it takes to keep our family together. The children need us as a strong family. I'll make amends." I couldn't find it within myself to forgive her. I expressed that my regret stemmed from expecting too much from her, realizing that loyalty and respect were too much to request after all those years. I made it clear that if I had known earlier that she could betray me and the family the way she did, I would have made different choices. After our conversation, Elena withdrew entirely, and I headed upstairs to continue my day, overwhelmed by profound sadness and regret over the state of our marriage. No matter how hard she attempted to win me back, the sense of betrayal and pain she had inflicted on me lingered. The last straw was when she involved our children in her efforts to reconcile. She would tell them that she missed me and desired to reunite our family. I was livid and insisted that she cease using our children as pawns in her attempts. Divorce became the sole viable option. I had no intention of fighting to retain a cheater, even if she was the mother of my children. Despite her best efforts, I remained resolute in my decision, realizing that we couldn't share the same household any longer. Eventually, Elena recognized that my mind couldn't be changed, and she moved into her own apartment. It was a challenging period for all of us. The divorce proceedings proceeded without significant contention. Elena accepted all the terms without resistance, and we reached an agreement for joint custody of our children. However, the majority of our assets were awarded to me, as it was an at-fault divorce. It's worth noting that during our final meeting with the lawyers to settle everything, Elena addressed me directly. She said, "I'll go to therapy because what I did to our family is wrong. I can't forgive myself for what I did to you, but I'll strive to be better and I'll wait for you. Whether you join me or not, I'll stay by your side from a distance because you're the father of my children and the love of my life. You are truly the only man for me." I simply nodded politely, hugged her, and assured her that we would take good care of the children. But I made it clear that we could never be together again. As I hugged her and prepared to let go, I felt the weight of her body sinking deeper into my arms just before she hugged me back tightly, recognizing that it would be our last embrace. I can't deny that I still cared for her. After all, she's the mother of my 4 children, who are the greatest blessings in my life. As the divorce was finalized, Elena moved into her own apartment, and we gradually adapted to our new routines. I made sure she had everything she needed for the kids when they were at her place because they are my children. However, I knew she might view it as something she could use in the long run, which I found wrong. I did notice that she took most of the wedding photos and pictures of us together when she left. It struck me as odd when I saw them on her wall while helping her set up her apartment, but I thought it might be a phase before she fully accepted our situation. She made several attempts to stay close to me. Whenever I picked up the kids or during their birthdays at my place, she would find reasons to keep me within eyesight. When our family came around, I ensured she was still welcome and that people treated her with respect for the sake of the children. She would often tell them, "I'm working on improving myself to be with your dad. I made mistakes and didn't give your dad what he deserved. I didn't realize what I had. But the father you guys have, that's the only man I can be with." When they asked what happened, she never went into specifics about the cheating, and I was grateful for that. Her main focus in life revolved around raising the children, maintaining her fitness at a women's gym, and working part-time when the kids weren't with her. As the kids grew older, they often mentioned that their mother had hopeful dreams of reuniting our family. 2 years later, I started to become more open to the idea of dating again, without making it awkward for the kids. However, I wasn't ready for a serious relationship just yet. I wanted to meet new people. It took me some time to overcome the past, and I was determined to avoid introducing any negativity into our lives that could affect the children. With my business booming and taking up most of my free time when I wasn't with the kids, it was surprising when I crossed paths with a woman named Jolene. It happened when I had to pick up one of my sons from a party, and I struck up a conversation with the sister of the party host's mom. She offered me some apple pie, and the rest is history. To this day, her hair reminds me of that first meeting, with its long and silky brown locks. Jolene is a Latina woman who is 9 years younger than me. She's not only energetic physically, but also exudes a vibrant and enthusiastic personality. I must mention that she has a unique way of embracing her femininity towards me, softening up in my presence and complimenting every aspect of my life. More importantly, she has developed a wonderful bond with the kids, and they adore her. After a year of dating, she moved in, and we've been together ever since. While she can't have children, I won't delve into the details. She is passionate about her role in our family and respects Elena's place in the children's lives. Any unintentional boundary crossing is handled with care. On one occasion, Jolene had to excuse herself to our daughter because she was concerned that she might be inadvertently hurting her mom, Elena. This happened after they had gone shopping together multiple times and had a great deal of fun. Our daughter expressed that shopping was her favorite pastime and that she enjoyed spending that time with Jolene. From then on, they shared a fascination for fashion. The boys playfully teased them, especially when they started sharing a walk-in closet, a tradition that continues to this day. Now let me take you back to when Elena first met Jolene. Elena's initial encounter with Jolene occurred when she came to pick up the kids. At that time, Jolene and I had been dating for a few months, and I believe the kids had mentioned her to Elena before this meeting. While I can't recall their exact words, they had expressed their admiration for Jolene and mentioned that she occasionally stayed at our house. On the day they met, Jolene came outside to greet Elena. I want to be impartial here, but I could sense some tension on Elena's part as she watched Jolene approach. It's worth noting that Jolene is naturally cheerful and gets along with everyone. However, as I mentioned earlier, her feminine and engaging presence may have taken Elena by surprise. Even my own mother playfully acknowledges her beauty by giving her nicknames that highlight her femininity. Jolene tends to become a bit shy in response, which I find endearing, and I'm not alone in that sentiment. But back to the moment when they met. Elena's behavior was unlike anything I had ever seen from her before. She was exceedingly gentle and poised, almost as if she wanted to match Jolene's demeanor. Jolene, in turn, was sweet and respectful toward Elena. She offered a warm and sincere hug and tried, albeit unsuccessfully, to remain in the background during their social interaction. Jolene's genuine desire is to always do the right thing, and she deeply cares about not making others feel bad. That's just how she is. She believes it's something she should work on, but I assure her that there's no need, because it's one of the things I love about her. As the kids were getting into the car and Elena was helping them with their seatbelts, I noticed Jolene approaching me. She actively refrained from hugging the kids goodbye or assisting with the seatbelts, and I could feel her nervously squeezing my arm. Then, something unexpected happened. As the kids were getting settled in the car, one of our sons jumped out and called for a hug from Jolene. The others followed suit, except for the oldest, who waved from inside the car. During this moment, Elena stood next to the driver's seat and gave me a look that revealed profound heartbreak in her eyes. It was a heartbreak deeper than anything I had seen when we were finalizing our divorce with the lawyers present. I never discussed it with her, but in that moment, I could see into her soul. She was filled with regret and shame, utterly devastated by the realization that I, along with the kids, had formed a strong and healthy family unit without her. She wasn't just replaced. The truth hit her even harder. Her kids were now living in a wonderful household as a complete family unit, and her ex-husband, whom she had cheated on, had found a better woman in his life in every way. I have to admit, when I first found out about the affair, I wanted revenge, and I was furious at both my uncle for betraying us and Elena. However, it pained me to see her still hoping and trying. At this point, I genuinely want her to find happiness as well, but it's no longer my problem. She made the choice to pursue a relationship with creepy Uncle Dave, and she has to deal with the consequences. But let's get back to the encounters because there's more to the story. It actually got worse. The first time, right after that encounter at my house, I went to pick up the kids at Elena's place. I did it alone because Jolene didn't want to make Elena uncomfortable, and she preferred to prepare for the kids just before they arrived home. So there I am at Elena's place. The kids are too busy to greet their dad, and Elena asks me to talk privately. She doesn't start with small talk. She jumps right into it, asking me, they talk about her a lot, but I think it could hurt them if she isn't serious. How serious is it? She knows me well. She knows that when I commit, it's for the long run. She was just trying to provoke a reaction. I noticed because she spoke in a playful tone and kept getting close when we talked. I made sure to maintain some distance by positioning myself differently. I sighed to express how absurd and hypocritical her question was. I told her that it's serious, that I've found love, and that Jolene is incredible with the kids. I assured her not to worry because Jolene would be a permanent, stable presence in their lives. I noticed a look in Elena's eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time, a brief flicker of anger, almost imperceptible, quickly replaced by sadness, before she put on a facade of happiness and relief. Elena and I had always communicated awkwardly when it came to our kids. I was direct and concise, while she tended to be chatty, discussing her therapy lessons, showing curiosity, and even being clingy at times. She continued, I meant what I said. I'll wait for you. I will. I interrupted her because I didn't want to entertain the topic any further. I told her that I hope she finds happiness, but not with me. She needs to seek it elsewhere. But I urged her to take it seriously to avoid negatively impacting the kids in the process. That was the end of our conversation. I didn't want to waste any more of my energy that could be better spent with the kids and my wonderful partner, Jolene. Fast forward about 6 years, and this is no joke. My son returned from his mom's place, and during dinner he playfully remarked, "Hey, Dad, did you know that Mom keeps a picture of both of you on her nightstand?" I cautioned him not to make jokes about it, emphasizing that his mother is doing her best. Surprisingly, her apartment is still adorned with our wedding photos over a decade later. Jolene was present at the dinner table, and she doesn't mind at all. She doesn't have any negative feelings towards Elena, and neither do I. The kids have grown up and are doing wonderfully. They still don't know the details, I'm quite sure of that. I'll share the truth with them when the oldest is past 21 and asks, but I want them to continue loving their mother. They spend a lot of time with her, and I make sure they hold her in the same high regard as I did before all of this happened. I've never mentioned to my daughter about her drawing. She doesn't remember it, and I won't connect her to her parents' divorce or her mother's past actions. Elena is terrific with the kids. She goes above and beyond for them every day. They mean the world to her. She just needs to understand that I'm not coming back. Physically, Elena is in great shape and could date anyone she wants, but she chooses to live alone in the same apartment. She has never broached the topic of rekindling our relationship. I no longer need to ensure that she's welcome at family gatherings when the kids are involved. She is free to join if it concerns the children. Jolene's sociable nature has helped Elena warm up a bit towards her, and I've witnessed them sharing smiles, which is nice. When Jolene hosts kids' parties at our place, she occasionally invites Elena to help out, but the reverse happens less often. Jolene doesn't expect Elena to initiate such invitations, and I trust Jolene to maintain a healthy distance, not getting too close. If there are significant changes in Elena's life, I could provide an update, but it might take more than 5 years. Reflecting on everything now, I realized that the divorce was the best outcome for me. It allowed me to grow and become a stronger individual. I've learned the importance of trusting my instincts and not ignoring my gut feelings. Most importantly, life is unpredictable, and it's our responsibility to make the most of every situation and keep moving forward. Before I conclude, let me add one last interesting tidbit. I almost forgot about Dave, our infamous uncle. He's lived in our town his entire life and used to be quite popular. However, it seems that most people from his past either avoid him or give him unfriendly looks, but that's just speculation. Honestly, I haven't seen him in person in a long time. According to my cousins, he's taken a different path, and it doesn't involve my ex-wife. He's not as sociable as he used to be, and at family gatherings, they mention how he's isolated in a small apartment in Wisconsin, rarely seeing the sun. It appears that the bottle has become his closest companion, and he spends his time rewatching content on streaming services, with family members occasionally checking in to ensure he's still alive. Elena and I never discussed it, but apparently he attempted to locate her and stays in touch with family members, inquiring about her well-being and if he can reach out to her. However, they don't entertain the idea of helping him. That all happened more than 6 years ago. I'm not sure why he disappeared the way he did, but I do know that he didn't even attend my cousin's wedding. People openly say he's not welcome, but I wouldn't ask them to make such a decision. I used to be open to the idea of encountering his boisterous self just for a conversation, to demonstrate what a real man is like. However, that's all in the past now, and it might disrupt the overall harmony of the family. So that concludes the story of the best uncle in the universe.